All right, so it's about 20 days, less than 20 days to deadline. And I've still got this project going. Two more chapters to really finish, or two more episodes to really finish editing. And most of it's got to do with like sound visualizers and just, adding visuals. The writing's done, the audio recording of the narration is done, but it still needs supplementary visuals and some music, atmosphere, sound effects, that sort of thing. I think I can get it done in 20 days. Figure 1 week per episode. And most of the hard stuff is done. It's been a very delicate process of trying to handle the ins and outs of even what can be relayed as fiction versus what cannot be relayed as fiction, even if it is presented as fiction. There are a lot of dynamics that I have to be conscious of while producing this project. But speaking as someone who shot, edited, produced for IBM, Shell Oil, Microsoft, the U.S. Department of Defense, I've shot both stills and video, and having won some awards pretty much every time that I put a film out. This is one project that I have much more control over in terms of quality of presentation, in terms of not necessarily depending on actors, or which are dependent on a budget, which is dependent on a lot of other things. So a lot of the subsequent dependencies and redundancies are kind of eliminated in this type of project because it's not film. It's a true story, based on a true story, inspired by true events, but there are lots of dynamics in how to present it and how to write, how to word in a way that relays the seriousness of this project, that relays the seriousness of something as heavy as nuclear geopolitics and espionage in actual situations, and having come up against the actual people involved in such things on a very granular personal level, and putting all of that, wrapping it all in the context, which is something that I became much more conscious of watching a film like Blow Up, the Michelangelo Antonioni 1966 film, where context is really everything. Or a business director at Ogilvy, Scott Silverman, had a group called the Context Collective. Context is really kind of the underlying factor in people deciding whether or not to give their attention to something else that's coming at them, especially in this day and age of just massive fire hose of stuff being spewed out on social media every millisecond of every single day of every year for the past, since we ever had social media. So the context of this story within the scope of our own world as we inhabit today, and the context of how close are we to nuclear annihilation, how close are we to anything that's described in the story, really. I think it's just the scale of something that is based on true events, the scale of it that happened in those short years from 2000, 2001 leading up to the 2008 Olympics. So I hope you enjoy this. It's thoroughly entertaining because there's really not, it's really pretty packed. There's not a second really that is without its, not just the context of the backdrop of the entertainment, of the celebrities and the party scene and the social scene in Beijing at the time that everybody was going there because everybody thought it was a big coming out party. Against that sort of backdrop of intrigue and true crime, the visa fraud, the danger of so many aspects of living in Beijing, not just the danger from criminals or people getting killed or stupid reasons, but the danger of actually succumbing to the party, the intensity of that existence within that party scene. People, one person ended up taking antidepressants that were prescribed that were from Mexico, and she ended up committing suicide. And some other people died of overdoses of drugs. So it was a pretty intense scene, and just to have survived that, and not just to be able to survive, but not only take pictures along the way of everything and keeping track, not only being in the right place at the right time in terms of not just the celebrity contact, but the geopolitical, the nuclear, North Korea nuclear geopolitics angle of someone who's actually involved as what was called a freelance mercenary, or someone who helped to facilitate the defection of the father of North Korea's nuclear program. With all of that in the same bag, I think is something that I just was not able to let go without giving it some kind of due diligence in terms of relaying that story to the world. And then finally, why is it important? And the context, again, is just that in the end all be all is not this game of politics that's treated more like a game than it should be, because it actually affects human lives and real people and real lives. Something is absolutely disgusting as Elon Musk's gutting of U.S. aid, resulting in hundreds of thousands of deaths of children who were previously beneficiaries of this program. But treating politics like pro wrestling, like a football game. When politics involves human lives, and people say, well, I don't really do politics. Some people say that, and they don't realize that politics is actually going to do them, regardless. And so it's something to be aware of, something to be conscious of, and something that if we can affect ourselves, we should try to affect politics ourselves, because otherwise they're going to affect us, and predominantly negative, very negative fashion. And once, however, we're able to free ourselves from that preoccupation, then I think the world will be a better place. But who knows when that's going to happen.